So the hands, they play a pretty huge role in the golf swing. Today I want to go through some of the key hand movements and how you can feel and practice them to improve how your hands move throughout the whole golf swing. The first way I'm going to get you to feel and understand how the wrist should work is by using a simple book. If you take the book and grip it in your palms like this and take your golf posture. Now, if I make a golf swing that would be correct, as we swing back, you notice the spine of this book points towards the ground, okay, at an angle. If I rotate my wrists, you'll see how this changes its orientation and this points more vertically up. We want this to obviously be facing down a little bit at this stage with the cover of the book. Most golfers, the common mistake they make in this takeaway move is too much wrist rotation. Now when you're doing this with a book in your hand, you can really feel that rotation happen. This is what I call a more passive movement, a simple move, and that's what we're looking for in that takeaway. What would start to happen then is we get a little bit of what we call radial deviation or wrist cock, but the book angle isn't changing really, it's just working upwards. So the takeaway would be kind of that blended movement of cover to the ground and then a slight bit of radial. Now as we go from there to the top of the swing, what will happen is the lead wrist will start to work into what we call more flexion and the trail wrist into more extension, which is basically this way with the trail wrist and this way with the lead wrist. So from that point of view to the top of the swing with the book, I'm trying to feel that the book now is going to rotate and the cover is going to face a little bit more towards the sky. Certainly feel that the hands are opposing each other and pushing into the book. That's a good feel and that pressure's there to get that feel. Again, most golfers are going to be more like this at the top. So you'll see the difference in the shape of the book. So what we want is the ridge of the book to be pointing down to what we call your ball to target line or an extension of your ball to target line. That's what we want. Now in transition, that flexion and extension actually increases generally with most good players. This is a pattern I would like to see. It's not a pattern that we would see necessarily with every single elite player, but certainly the majority, the high percentage of them would do these skills. So book to the floor, the cover to the floor, more to the sky, even more to the sky, and down to that delivery position, the cover to the floor. And I can really feel now that my right wrist is really set back. And obviously we're not creating too much casting in the club. The angles are staying what I would call fairly passive. There is a slight widening or a slight unloading of the wrist, but it's very small and certainly nothing conscious. And then through into impact, I'll just move my position here to get more square on with this camera. I still want that book to be facing down to the ground and angled, so not neutral. I want it angled, and it's going to be working into that neutral position, and the inline condition is going to be about here, just post impact. Then the lead wrist is going to go into that extension phase and work more up. So just by using the book and gripping it, you can feel your wrists moving through those positions. And it's a simple thing that you can have around the house or in the office that you can pick up and start to make some swings. Even if it's just takeaway to impact, to get a feel of how your wrist should be working through that hitting zone. Now I'm going to share with you now some ways of doing this with the golf club and how we can take this to the golf course. But really, what we want to do with the wrists, pretty much I've described there in terms of the extension and flexion and kind of the loading and unloading, kind of happens in the round using that book. So with a golf club in the hand, we're after very much the same things. Hands opposing each other at address. Obviously the book's still to the ground, so you see my club head pretty much parallel to the spine. A little bit of wrist cock to the top. Lead wrist getting to a flatter position, doesn't have to be perfectly flat. Downswing, increasing that flexion and extension of the wrist into that delivery position. Turning and presenting it to the ball, then the wrist going into that extension. Those are the key moves. What I want to introduce you now is a very simple waggle that's going to help you move the club in a nice chain to react to get the wrist working the right way in that delivery position and takeaway position. So think of it like this. If I'm set up to that target there, and in the backswing, if I think about my hands beating the club in that takeaway, That gives me a pretty good feel for that takeaway move and then set the wrists up. Then in delivery, the hands want to feel like they're ahead of the club head. So it's kind of behind, ahead, and then the head, and then let it relax. That is what we want to feel. And I would like you to hit some small shots just doing that. The backswing's probably not going to be much further than kind of rib high back. It might go a bit further with momentum, but that's the kind of way I want it to feel. So if I take my setup to this ball here, we're almost going to try and drag that club head along the ground and in through the golf ball. Don't worry about how well you hit the ball. It's funky, it's different, but that's what we want to try and feel. We're going to, creating the real swing, the big swings. So we want to build that from a tiny shot to a bigger shot to a full shot. Let's do that. So a slightly bigger shot now. So that same rehearsal. Now and there's gone probably about 120 yards or so, maybe a bit more. Kind of feeling fairly just over half, feeling almost about 3/4 speed-ish type of thing for that length of swing. Let's try and go to a full swing. So let's try and put that into a full swing now. Rehearsal, step to the golf ball. Pretty good, pretty solid contact. Had a bit too much draw in it for me, but I really tried to exaggerate what my wrists were doing. Again, if you're a slice of this world, it's going to feed what you need. But realistically, for most good players, the takeaway is going to probably be important. The delivery position they're probably pretty good at. For most average golfers, kind of 5 handicap and above, the delivery position is going to be kind of golden information for you. If you get that delivery position right, it's going to help improve how you impact the ball, how you control the wrist through that hitting zone. Most golfers through that hitting zone tend to have the hands working back like this. They're not having the force on the shaft going forward like this. There is a release, there is a lining up, there is a squaring up for sure. Most golfers, 90% of golfers, would be doing that too early in the golf swing, and some, very few, small percentage, would be probably too late, and the rest are going to be in that nice, happy gold zone that gives us really good ball and turf contact and club face control through the ball. And those will be the really good ball strikers at the golf club, or really good players that you'll see on TV. Those are the kind of guys that we want to try and emulate and copy. Obviously, we're not going to be going at the same speed as some of those, so we won't be as far forward with the handle, but we certainly want to be having some forward movement of the handle through the golf ball with rotation to keep the face square. That's the ideal world. So that's the key movements in the golf swing. Use a book at home, practice it, get better at it, get some feels, and take that to your real swing to make you play better straight away.